An intellectual carrot, the mind boggles.
You see? You see? You're stupid minds. Stupid! Stupid!
Earth has had Santa Claus long enough. We will bring him to Mars.
I've been afraid a lot of times in my life, but I didn't know the real meaning of fear until I had kissed Becky.
One thing will be clear. It's not for man to interfere in the ways of God.
It's alive. Oh, it's alive. It's alive. It's alive.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Earth vs. Soup, episode 125. I'm Aaron Pollier.
And I'm Darlene.
We watched King Kong. Yep, from 1933. So we had decided that long ago when we kind of hit episode 100 that we were going to go back and watch some of the influential films, science fiction, action, adventure films that influenced the 1950s, 60s, even to today. Part of the reason why Earth versus Soup, we started doing it, was because we wanted to have people understand where science fiction kind of has its roots. And a lot of it came from the 1950s and 60s science fiction
Besides
era.
Jules Verne and...
Yes. But I'm talking about like modern cinema science fiction, not literature. Okay?
Yes.
But we had decided around episode 100 that we needed to go a little bit further back with certain films. And one of the most influential films by any metric that you want to talk about is King Kong. And we decided we needed to do it. We were going to wait for one of our quote-unquote classic episodes that we try to do on the 5s and 10s. Just so we don't do them all in a row and burn everybody out on all the good stuff and then have nothing but, like...
shit films.
Yeah, Poverty Row films afterwards. But this is a fantastic film. Obviously, it has been reviewed by more skilled film critics than us. It is, what? Almost...
It's 100 minutes long.
It's almost 90 years old, is what I was going to say. It's almost 90 years old. So, again, like everything at Earth vs. Soup, you're going to get spoilers, but if you haven't seen a 90-year-old film that's considered one of the most influential films in cinema history, I'm sorry.
You already know the
You know the plot.
It's like going to Titanic and crying over
the ship sinking.
You
know it's going to happen.
You know it's going to happen. It's classified as an adventure fantasy horror monster movie.
Sure.
And it has a sequel called Son of Kong.
It was done the same year, but we haven't watched that.
The budget was, and it's down to cents that they have this.
Yeah, I'm sure.
$677,254.75.
Okay, sure.
It grossed $5.3 million.
Okay. On
the first week, it hit the $5 million worldwide for its initial release.
I mean, that's a lot of money.
Especially during this time, because this is the
Great Depression. The roundabout estimate that you can do for converting money from 1933 to 2022 is about 22 times. It's about 22 times. So that's a lot of money. I mean, if it made $5 million worldwide, it's an incredible amount of money for the time, for any movie at all. So, yeah, $5 million, boy, $110 million in today's money. I mean, in the big blockbuster sense today, the film industry is obviously much different today than it was even like 20 years ago.
Well,
right?
because they're called initial rentals.
Well, no, I'm talking about how the studios just basically put all of their money into these giant blockbusters that they expect to make billions rather than hundreds of millions. But I mean, if you had a movie, let's say, in the 1990s that broke $100 million, I mean, that was a stunning success. It was rare to have a movie that had a budget of more than $100 million. There were a few, but very few at that time. This movie made a lot of money for good reason. So we're going to break down the plot. It also
cost a lot of money.
Well, sure, but $600,000 is not that bad, even multiplying it by 22. It's like 8.8 million or so.
And you want to talk about,
Or am I doing that completely wrong?
you deal with math a lot faster than I do. I use a calculator.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Darlene.
I was going to say you wanted to talk about some of the actors in this thing and some of the people in it.
Yeah, it's about 14 million or so that the budget was.
The first one is, you might know her, that plays Anne in it.
Fay Wray.
Fay Wray. When she died, they turned off the lights on the Empire State Building for 15 minutes.
See, and here's what's strange. I think if you look at Fay Wray's filmography, okay, Fay Wray, clearly, while watching this, she was very, very, very clearly a skilled actress. A very clearly skilled actress. She had a ton of movies, like Internet Movie Database lists, 124 credits to her name. She was obviously a very desired actress as well.
She was in Dr. X, which is another one we need to do.
Yes. Mystery of the Wax Museum. I see on here she was in some Alfred Hitchcock Presents stuff. I see that in her filmography as well. She's clearly very skilled. She was clearly very well loved, but I think she punched way above her weight, so to speak. That she wasn't being hired for super big budget movies besides this. Like, and this was a strange big budget movie because it was a monster movie, right? Yeah, the monster movies at the time.
The first what's the word that I'm looking for? Kaiju.
One of the first kaiju movies. Yeah, I think it might be the first. But what she did in this was also not her first movie, by the way. She had done dozens of movies before this. Okay, dozens. But even Dr. X is before this. So she had described her skill on screen already by the time King Kong came around. Okay, but King Kong, I feel, solidified her place in film history in a way that the rest of her filmography did not. There's a reason why the Empire State Building was turned off, is because when she died, the lights, it was because that role in King Kong was so good. She did it so well. King Kong influenced so many people later on that King Kong is just something that is in our psyche as
you don't think of the Empire State Building without thinking of King Kong either.
Yeah, and you can't think of King Kong without the Empire State Building. Like, these are inseparable things in American culture, I would say, or at least Western culture. And I'm sure that there's other nations that have that sort of cinema connection in a way. It's like Stalker in Eastern Europe. Like you remember Stalker, and Stalker, you can think, oh, well, you connect it with certain things. But I'm babbling about this film because the plot is very simple. And maybe we should just go with the plot, but I wanted to talk about how good Fay Wray is in this. Fay Wray is not only good, she's amazing in a way that I would actually have said that she should have gotten awards, like lots of awards. They should have heaped it upon her because she honestly was top notch in this.
One of the other things we need to talk about is the problems that most people have a criticism about how racial they were. You were upset with how they treated Charlie. Mm-hmm. Yet there's a scene where there is a young child in the village, the natives' village, and they do that bubble-eyed.
Blackface panto kind of.
Yeah,
BS.
But it was with a real black woman, but they made her eyes look like it was.
It was like a minstrel type thing that was shown. Yeah, there's only a couple things in here that I think are like that. It's that, and then the really overly broken English from
Charlie.
From Charlie, who is supposed to be like
the Chinese cook.
Charlie is an interesting character in this, and he gets I think he gets some honest laughs from some of his actions, because they're not racist, but they make complete sense to us. Like, this guy's the chef on board. He's never really been given responsibility, but when the captain calls for everyone to arm themselves, what does he do? He doesn't grab a rifle, he grabs a meat cleaver and starts wielding it. And I'm like, okay, that's funny, but it's also completely logical in the context of this movie.
And it's all because the natives took Anne off the ship.
Yes.
And you see him and Charlie and Anne having semi-relationship, because one of the first things you see when she's on the ship is she's talking to him, and she goes, "You must have to peel a lot of potatoes." And he goes, "Yeah, and when I go back to China,
I won't have to see a potato ever again.
See a damned potato again."
And the thing is, I totally understand why they were like the people that were thick as thieves on the ship, because they were the two odd people out on the ship. Everyone else was Caucasian. I want to say everyone else was white on the ship, because I don't remember seeing a black sailor on the ship. And the ship's either. SS Venture. It's another tramp steamer, kind of like what we've talked about in Creature from the Black Lagoon. But she's the only woman on board, and Charlie is the only non-white person on board. So they're like the odd people out, and it's very clear.
And Charlie's got a monkey.
Yeah, Charlie has a pet monkey, but it's also that a lot of the people on board don't want her there, because having a woman on board, they don't say it's bad luck, but no one wants a woman on board because she's just going to get in the way. She's just more trouble than she's worth. And you were like, okay, this isn't really sexist. It sort of is, but not in the way that it's male machismo saying, oh, women don't deserve to be on ships. It wasn't that.
Well,
and we were looking at it, we understood why they were saying this.
Think about it, a woman on the ship, every time she goes to the bathroom, you have to, there's probably only one or two.
There's likely two heads. But the ship is fairly large, so maybe there's more.
So you have to shut down that for her to go to the bathroom.
Well,
and think of us with a teenager. That's probably where the female is with the bathroom at this time.
Oh, I'm not even making that argument, because I don't think that's an issue. I don't think that's an issue on this show.
The clothes that they had would have taken them a bit to get to going to
what
the bathroom.
It was is that these were men that were used to being at sea and not seeing women except in ports who were prostitutes.
I'm starting with the nicer than.
Oh, okay.
That.
Okay.
I'm showing you that there are other problems that come about that you don't. That's the obvious.
It's that it's bad for morale when you have one woman on the ship and every man is kind of competing for her attention. It breaks down discipline.
And it's shown in this one, too.
And it is shown, exactly. Now, again, I'm not saying that kind of attitude is correct. It isn't.
But everybody,
at the time,
if you touched her, the whole crew was against you.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is that the attitude at the time with what the sailors were saying about not wanting her on board makes sense, and it isn't really sexist. It sort of is, but it isn't sexist in the way that you think it is.
On the way she keeps commenting to the first mate, Jack.
Yeah, Jack Driscoll.
Because she's getting the other part of it.
Yeah, she's obviously attracted to Jack because Jack doesn't like her, but isn't being overly mean to her. He's just like, yeah, I don't think you need to be on the ship. I think it's a danger. I think it's a problem, etc., etc. And she's kind of falling for him, and he is falling for her because it's Fay Ray. Anne is a beautiful woman who is wearing clothing that is really unsuited, let's say, for being on board a ship.
It's clothing picked by the producer,
the director, Carl Denham. The character's name is Carl Denham, yeah.
He's a wildlife film renowned for his remote and exotic locations that he films things in.
Yeah, he films with lots of animals. He never has women in his films, though.
This is the first time, because he kept on being told
he needs to have a love interest in his films.
He needs to have...
Yeah, and the problem is at the beginning is that none of the casting agencies want to work with him on this because he can't tell you where he's going, for how long he's going to be gone, and no woman wants to go out on a ship and be gone for 6 months out of contact with everybody else. No actress, let's say. So he ends up going out into New York and just finding Ann Darrow, Fay Wray.
I like how they showed a women's house, one of those women's boarding homes that takes in women during the night.
Because it was the Great Depression, middle of the Great Depression.
Yeah. And he's looking across all of them, and he shakes his head, walks off, and he goes to a fruit stand.
Yeah.
And I think he starts talking to the guy.
Yeah, he's talking to the guy, but he sees Fay Wray trying to steal an apple, and the newsstand guy is like, "I got you, you bitch."
The fruit stand. It's not a newsstand. It's a fruit stand.
There was newspapers there too. That's what I saw, at least at first. But she's obviously hungry. She's out of work. She doesn't have work. She doesn't have family. She's gorgeous.
And she's starving because she's almost passing out on him.
Yeah, she is very lightheaded. And he takes her under his wing to basically say, look, I'm going to make you a star. You're beautiful.
He takes her to a cafe, and she gets the wrong impression. And
yeah, she does at first. And
I would too.
Yeah, they don't come out and say it, but she thinks that she's basically being hired to be a kept woman at first. And she's like, I don't think I can do that. Like, I thank you for the meal and everything. And he's like, no, you got me wrong. I want to make you a movie star, and I don't want any funny business. I want to take you on this trip. I'm going to make you a star.
The reason why he'd come over that, because he's awfully excitable, touchy.
Yes, he's obviously looking her over, but it's not like he's looking her over like a... he's not looking her over sexually. He's looking her over as trying to...
But it comes off as...
It does come off as that. And he explains later, no, I'm trying to figure you out to how to film you. And we see a scene on the ship later on with him actually filming her and giving her directions while she's wearing a very sheer gown.
And one of the things Aaron notices all the time...
It's in the bright light. Here's the thing. To justify this, this is pre-code. So certain things get through that you would not see until the 70s.
But my thought on that one is that bras weren't that...
It wasn't the fact that she wasn't wearing a bra. She was wearing sheer clothing in very bright light, so you could see as though she was like a wet t-shirt contest. It was very clear.
Especially the one that she wore, the filmology that he was doing on the ship.
Yeah, when he was doing the test filming. And it wasn't intended to be sexual at all. That's the thing. It was just that this is the costume. They weren't sexualizing her, and in my opinion, they weren't. And I don't think she came across as feeling like she was being sexualized. It was, this is a beautiful gown. I'm going to wear it, and I'm going to act. I'm going to take direction. And she does so, and the men obviously are leering at her, the crew.
Because they're even up on the...
Because they don't see women very often. And here's this beautiful blonde woman in a fairly risque dress. Of course they're going to look and ogle her. I get that. But, there's the first officer, Carl Denham, who's not really doing that. And the captain isn't doing it.
But the captain is
not like... the Captain Englehorn, Jack Driscoll is the
But
first
if you
mate.
take from what she says to Charlie, the captain is kind of like...
being a father
figure to her.
Yeah, he seems to kind of like Captain Englehorn. He's coming across as a father figure to the entire crew in a lot of ways. He seems to actually care about everybody. He's not like one of these typical captains of a tramp steamer that you would see in films from the 40s or 50s, where it's these guys are all criminals. They're out of the military.
No, this is a
this is
cargo.
like a legit cargo. It's still a tramp steamer. It's very clearly a tramp steamer.
But it's a cargo.
Yeah, but that's what tramp steamers are, Darlene. Again, tramp steamers, the only thing tramp steamers are not owned by a large company. They're owned by the crew of the ship, often just the officers, and they take random jobs. That's what a definition of a tramp steamer is. Yes, they're a cargo ship, but the fact is that if you are a roaming ship that's not owned by a big company, people generally had a lower opinion of you. Okay. Now, what also suggests that this crew is fairly well off is that they have worked with Carl Denham before, at least on 2 other pictures before this, they say. And this ship is very well equipped. Very well equipped. Not just with, like, wildlife stuff. This ship has gun racks of what do you call them? And I have to look at it really quick. I'm sorry, Krags, which are old. They're old rifles. They use like a 30-40 round, but they weren't really used in the U.S. that much, except on Navy ships for some reason, because they were dumped there for the most part. But there's like Craig Jorgensen rifles on this ship, like racks of them, and there's Winchester lever action rifles, racks of them.
But that also might be because he takes the crew
into pretty rough places.
Pretty rough places, and the reason why he has to get Anne, a female, before the morning is because he's got these bombs that he created.
Okay, no.
But he can't have them.
He says specifically there's enough explosives and ammunition on here to wipe out all of New York Harbor. And if the New York Harbor inspector comes on board and sees this, we're all screwed. And they're not, this isn't a joking matter. He's not exaggerating. He's honestly saying we need to leave before the first shift tomorrow and this guy comes on board. Otherwise, we're stuck here for months in legal issues. So he's like, I have to go out and find Anne. I have to find this woman. And they are damn glad to get out of New York Harbor when they do, because yes, this ship arguably has more small arms on it than a destroyer in World War II would have. Like, this thing it doesn't have deck guns. It can arm its crew to the teeth.
And it does.
And it does. Like, this is like a full Marine company that can land out on Skull Island. Anyway, let's move on. They go to Skull Island. Skull Island is a island that the director Carl Denham has learned about from a survivor of like a Norwegian or a Dutch ship. I don't know.
No, it was Norwegian, I think.
And he says, look, there was these natives and there's this giant monster supposedly that they're afraid of called Kong. And Kong seems to be a fairly well-known myth in the region.
Yes, and
because the captain and the first officer know about legends of Kong, but they never knew that there was a real island.
Because the first thing that comes up is there's no island there that you're going to.
Yeah, it's not on any chart, but it turns out that it is. And they get there, it's foggy at first, but then they see the island and there's a village and this giant stone wall that cuts off the village from
with
the rest
a
of the
large
island,
wooden door.
So, yes, we have Kong, right? We're going to have Kong, and Darrow is going to be sacrificed to Kong because the villagers raid the ship after they first make contact with the ship.
I got to insert something here. There is a dance going on with gorilla suits going around this young lady.
Yeah, they're clearly gonna sacrifice her to Kong.
And I got to say that as they're putting flowers on her and that, I got to say this actress was doing what she was told to
scared.
do. She looks terrified.
Yeah.
And
good acting.
I got to say, for a bit part, she did damn good.
Sure. But the village chief basically says, "Hey, I want to buy your blonde woman. How much for your little girl?
6 women for the."
Yeah, I'll trade you 6 women for her. How much for your women? But that's a Blues Brothers reference. Obviously, everyone's like, no, you know what? We stopped this whole like buying and selling of people a little while ago. No thanks, folks. But the villagers like raid the ship that night in a pretty good scene, I thought. No one notices that Anne's been taken.
right before that, Jack, who turns out to be John.
His name is either John or Jack. They kind of alternate between them, but that's okay.
Informs Anne that he loves her.
Yeah, that he's fallen for. So they have to go onto the island to rescue Anne, and this is where they arm everybody to the damn teeth. They end up seeing Anne taken by King Kong. King Kong comes out, grabs her. There's a big battle, and we have about 5 or 6 separate scenes where Kong wrecks this tramp steamer crew.
Let me ask this question. Is this before or after Titans?
What are you talking about?
Clash of the Titans.
Darlene, Clash of the Titans is from like the late 70s, early 80s.
Oh, okay. So they took the
what are you talking
locking
about?
somebody up in arms.
Darlene, you're not drunk, are you?
No.
Okay. The chaining thing is not something. Yeah, they took some things from Clash of the Titans from King Kong. There's lots of nods because Harryhausen himself, who did Clash of the Titans, was heavily inspired to become the artist that he was by King Kong. Okay, so there's many scenes where Kong is fighting the crew or dinosaurs or other animals that are living on Skull Island. This is all stop motion. To a modern eye, it is fairly crude stop motion, but let's be frank, none of this stop motion was topped until Harryhausen came on the scene in the 50s. So this was a good 20 years of being the best of the best. And even today, if you look at it, Harryhausen is better, but not by much. Like, Harryhausen improved what was going on Kong, but this was still good. And in fact, I would say most of these scenes on Skull Island where there's lots of Kong fighting and there's lots of composite shots and matte paintings and rear projection
stuff. The first one was the Stegosaurus.
It is all very well done.
And the next one was they were on a raft with the Brontosaurus. You also said...
I said it's a Brachiosaurus because I don't want to give a specific species.
Okay.
Just a brachiosaur.
And then there's the where Kong puts her in a dead tree, the top of a dead tree, goes after the guys that are walking across...
And throws them down in a ravine. Bodies are bouncing off the ground. Like, it's very hardcore.
And the first mate and Jack and Carl... What's his last name? Denson.
Okay. Denham, the director,
are the only two that act like a rodent that we come from and go into a hole.
Well, and it's not that they're being cowards; it's that there's nothing they can do. And I'm going to hide, and they're not being cowards. That is a completely rational.
I just said, it's like us being a mouse when we were voles.
Yeah, just get to ground,
hide. Because there's nothing you're going to do except be able to be stomped on. And
especially when Kong starts fighting a freaking T-Rex. Like, that's a hardcore fight. He, like, breaks the jaw of the T-Rex.
Yes, and he does a T-Rex.
But anyway...
And the tree is knocked down. That was pretty good
like I said, bodies are bouncing off the bottom of a ravine. Yeah, and people are screaming. It is pretty damn good. But let's get to the point. I'm trying to skip over all these scenes because... it's not a lot of plot. It's just Kong fighting different creatures or making his way to his cave.
What I was saying was they in that fight, Kong versus the Rex, they knocked down her tree, and that was actually impressive for that time.
Well, yeah, it's composite shots. It's layering in different... Yeah, anyway. Kong makes it up to his cave. What's his name? Jack is able to rescue Anne because he's been following them up there. Kong chases them back down towards the village and the wall. And this is where the rest of the crew basically has chased off the villagers. Because at the very least, yes, the villagers have bows and spears and all that. But the tramp steamer crew are armed to the teeth with rifles, revolvers, and other automatic weapons. And
these are natives that are just... All you had to do was shoot.
Yeah, and they're gone because they don't understand what the hell's happening. And I don't blame them at all. But as soon as Kong comes back, everyone realizes, oh crap, we screwed up. He's going to make it through this door. Okay. And Kong does, but everybody, the villagers and the crew, are like holding this door closed, even though Kong is bursting through it. And they finally capture Kong with gas bombs, because it's not just weaponry like hand weapons, rifles that Venture has on board. It is chemical weapons.
Chemical sleep.
Yeah, like knockout bombs. And they are able to knock out Kong. And he's like, and Denham's like, hell, the hell with this movie. We're bringing Kong back because he's the eighth wonder of the world. So we skip to New York City. And to sum up New York City, because everyone knows this film, Kong escapes, wrecks crap, terrifies the populace,
climbs up hotel things. This is the one that I wanted to point out. Was he's looking in windows, probably looking for Anne.
Yeah.
He pulls out a woman that's sleeping in a bed
and throws her to the ground
upside down,
yeah.
And then just drops her because she's
dead.
Not
yeah, she's dead. She drops like 6 or 7 stories,
and
like onto cement. Yeah, she's dead. And that's awful, because we actually see her falling a little bit. But anyway, he does, like, Kong follows where Anne is. I guess he smells her or whatever, and he grabs her, and there's the whole climbing of the Empire State Building.
Yeah, after destroying a train rail.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, it's insane. There is massive destruction that happens. And we get to see some awesome old planes that we have seen flying. You know, we actually see some Helldivers taking off, but the airplanes that are attacking Kong while he's at the top of the Empire State Building are actually Stearman C-3 biplanes. We've seen those at Oshkosh, at the big air show at Oshkosh. They are beautiful planes. Kong is attacked, and unlike in modern Kong films where Kong is like 300 feet tall, machine guns actually can hurt this Kong, because Kong's only like 40 feet tall, maybe 25 feet
these are
tall.
Brownings.
It doesn't matter. They're 30 caliber machine guns, and it doesn't matter if you're 25 feet tall or 40 feet tall. Those things are going to hurt you.
This is the weapon that Bonnie and Clyde used.
No, they didn't. That's a bar, Darlene.
That's a bar.
These are the machine guns. These are actual machine guns.
So worse than the bar.
I think they have Lewis guns. I think I saw a Lewis gun at the front of the aircraft.
So these are the worse than those, and can blow out a car engine. And
the thing is that, as you would expect, Kong does get hurt by these things. He is slowly bleeding out. He takes out like one of the aircraft, and it burns as it comes down the Empire State Building.
And Aaron makes the worst comment.
It was not a joke. I said it's not the last time the Empire State Building will take an airplane hit, because
you said
it was during World War II that an airplane actually hit the Empire State Building. Anyway, moving on, because I'm not going to talk about the details of that. What you end up having is King Kong falling to his death.
Tumbling down
the side of the Empire State Building. And it's actually fairly sad, because you realize, look, Kong isn't like, he might not be sentient. He just doesn't really understand what the hell's happening. He's been taken out of his environment. He might think that, like, Anne was a gift to him, so she is his. I don't think he's like in love with her at all, but I think it's just that he's been so used to having things just given to him by the villagers that this is like he's going to do with it as he pleases. He deserves it. He is the king of the island. He is King Kong. He doesn't know what the hell's happening to him. He's just terrified. There's all these noises, all these people running around and screaming, where normally people are like worshipful of him.
Oh, and the reason why he breaks his chains is because of the flashes of the photography.
And it's sad. Like, it honestly comes across as sad, but I don't know if that was honestly the intent at the beginning of making of this film. Like, it was just supposed to be this kind of crazy monster film, and because I mean, in the end, Denham, his last line is, "No, it was beauty that killed the beast."
It wasn't the airplane. It was beauty killed the beast.
Because he's being a showman, but still, it's. No, that's not what this movie... It might not be the original intent of what the movie was about, but like what the movie is about, at least to us, isn't just a random monster movie. It's a tale about like understanding somebody's place in the world and trying to respect them. Because I mean, it's not like they're respecting the villagers in this very much. It's not like they're respecting Fay Ray as a woman on the ship. Like they're not really giving her respect. They don't respect Kong.
No.
And all of it freaking falls apart in the end because no one has respect for anything or anyone. At least that's the what I get out of it. It feels sad because Kong isn't the villain here. The villain is honestly Carl Denham, who took Kong out of the environment that he
instead
was
of
used
preserving nature in its environment, he was
wrecking it.
Yeah.
In a way. He was trying to display Kong and like celebrate Kong in his own way. Fair enough.
Because he said, that is $1 million,
I'll make millions off this.
We'll all make millions off of this.
Yeah, the whole crew. Because I guess he does cut the entire crew in.
And what was a ticket for that?
Oh, a ticket is $10 to get in to see Kong. That's a lot of money. Like $220 each.
During the Depression.
It's about a week's wage for a dentist. Like a ticket to come in and see King Kong. Like that's kind of crazy. That's crazy. So that's that. We've talked about the plot. We've also talked about what's really good. But does anything not work in this movie, Darlene?
Well, for its time, no.
No, judging it from a perspective of 1933, this movie is spectacular. Even judging it from 2022, when we're taping this movie is spectacular. Yes, some of the special effects look dated.
Oh,
some of it does.
Most of it does.
I wouldn't say most of it. I would say some of it because the composite shots or the rear projection stuff.
The monsters looked.
Oh yeah, the monsters. But I'm talking about the rear projection stuff or the matte paintings. They
were gorgeous.
Top notch.
Even where they did New York.
Oh, the shot? That's not a composite shot though. That was just a literal stock footage. Like, and that's fine. Like New York it's beautiful. It's 1933 New York. It's Art Deco at its height.
Well, where they have him up on the Empire State's Building, that is stock. Stock
footage.
That is back.
No, they just edit. Well, yeah, they edit him in to the shot, or they built a model of the top of the Empire State Building to put Fay Ray on. I can't. I shouldn't say a model. It's a full scale set, but boy, oh boy, this movie.
And the wind would have been worse than it was.
So I think like if I had to take two things that I would say are the best things about this movie, the in-camera effects that are in this movie overall are just, you can understand why Harryhausen was inspired to become a film artist, a special effects artist from this film, because the stop motion looks a little janky sometimes. It is spectacular. The compositing is spectacular. How they rear project at times and keep movement happening with a rear projection shot, with the actors in front of it, spectacular. Really, really well done. And the second thing I would say that stands out, no crap, Fay Ray. Fay Ray, the acting she does with her eyes, the slight, subtle, like, micro movements that she's able to do with her, like, eyebrows and mouth.
Like I said, she was trained for the silent films.
Yeah,
and
this is really not her first film.
But maybe we should go back to training somebody with the silent film thing, because it's emoting things that aren't being said.
One of the things I also noticed, and I noticed it most when they were in New York at the end, when she's in her long dress, her long like white dress and stole, she crooked her knees in a way to actually make it look like she had more curve, more of an hourglass. Like she was able to hold herself in a way that wasn't really, it didn't look like she was uncomfortable, but it was like, okay, I'm gonna move my right knee forward a little bit.
Drag queen in it.
No, she was not drag. Come on. You know what I'm saying? Like she knew how to hold herself.
To make her curves more impressive than they were.
She knew how to exactly move to get the most out of the dress and the shot that she was in. Even I pointed out, and you were like, "Oh my god, I didn't notice that." The way she was even breathing during the shots, in cadence with some of the men's lines that were there before she spoke or anything like that, it showed like she was actually attracted to Jack because she would inhale when Jack spoke and exhale when somebody else did, because it was like she was taking him in. It was very subtle, but I'm like, was this directed? Was this purposeful? Or was this Fay Wray herself just doing it? You
don't know, because there isn't any other females in it.
No, she's really. I mean, there's secondary women during some of the scenes, but yeah, she's the only woman that really has any kind of meaning in this film. This movie is worth watching for Fay Wray and the special effects, in my opinion. What are your top two things? And they can be the same, they can be different. It's okay. What are your top two things?
I think she did a good job, and I really think that some stars need to look at maybe how the silent films portrayed emotion when they didn't have words. And that might actually help us with... See, this doesn't even have any character development.
Not really. I mean, you can say a little bit, yeah, there is a little bit of development with Jack. Because Jack kind of comes from this, I hate women, I really don't want to have them be around them because they're just trouble. And yeah, it's pretty fast that there's a romance, but in the end, he actually does care for her.
But it's probably 3 months to getting from New York to...
It's probably a month to get out there. Because they're going to have to go from New York through like the Panama Canal, because Skull Island's out in the Pacific.
But it's a long trip.
Yeah, it is a long trip. So they're on the boat for a month, and they're on a boat for a month on the way back.
And he probably is keeping tabs on her so he doesn't have a problem with his crew.
But I'm not talking about the literal time it took for them, that it felt short. I'm talking about the screen time. Yes. It felt rushed. I will say that. But there is character development. Just with Jack. Well, I would say Jack is the only person that actually has any kind of development at all.
And you'd think that Carl Denham would, but
he doesn't.
He's still money, film.
Yes.
From beginning to end.
But unlike a lot of characters that you would, if I described Carl Denham as he's super interested in making movies and money, and I left it at that, you would think that he was a complete and utter douchebag. But the thing is, he's not. In this movie, he clearly doesn't care about keeping all the money himself. He cuts the entire crew on the action. Like, even the regular sailors, everyone is going to be rich on this. Everyone.
Oh, he cares about people, yes. That is that he works for them.
Yeah, he cares about people. He clearly cares about people. He is interested in people's stories.
But he is still a very obsessive about his filming.
Yes. But I'm saying, like, he has a little bit more than a two-dimensional mustache.
And he's
rich.
No, he's not a two. He's... The show must go on. He's got the Barnum
P.T. Barnum kind of thing. But you say Fay Wray is worth watching. What's your other, like, top thing out of this movie? Because, I mean, we both agree Fay Wray is... she is, like, God tier, like, in this.
Oh, I gotta say, I love the planes.
You like the old planes?
Yes, I've always done that.
I know, I love the old planes too, but...
That was my first love affair was planes, so it'll always be...
You like the planes.
I always loved planes.
So the guys that are just in the planes with the Brownings and the Lewis guns on the front.
No, it's just the fascination of flight.
Okay, that's fair enough.
I've loved planes.
Look, folks, we love this movie. This is a good movie for it is clearly a classic for a reason. There's a lot of great stuff in it. There's lots of good acting. Even, like, the side characters have good acting. I don't think there's a bad performance here. Honestly, I don't think there's a bad performance. The special effects are stunning. Like, hey, they built an actual monkey hand. to hold Fay Ray in, like a full-size hand. Like that's pretty cool. And she was terrified of it.
There was, what did I say, how many costumes there were of Kong?
There
wasn't costumes, it was models.
I don't know.
Because they were on 1 foot,
armatures.
1 inch to 1 foot.
Yeah.
And
it was rabbit fur, I know that.
Fur.
They brushed between the single frames that they shot, but that's why the hair looks like it moves strangely. In some of the shots. In the end, I think that's fine because it actually shows that people were really working with this, that this was a physical model. So I appreciate that kind of movement. It really
hair
shows.
Is even still today with computers very hard.
Yeah.
It's still one of the hardest things
King Kong's hair is fine in this. Like, yeah, it does move in a strange way, but that's just because there's literal human hands having to work this hair. And it makes me respect those shots even more, knowing how long it must have taken to make each one of those. 24 frames a second. And I can guarantee you, having to deal with those miniatures, those models, like in a way that Harryhausen wasn't even doing. Like, this is before Harryhausen. Those probably, like, a second might have taken a day or two to film. So, stunning, right? Stunning. We highly recommend this film, folks. This is worth your time. This is worth your time.
This is definitely it doesn't even matter if it's a monster, a science fiction, a drama. This is a classic.
Yeah, for good reason.
It's not just a science fiction classic, not just a horror classic. It is a classic.
It is a piece of cinema history that needs to be watched if you're at all interested in the art of filmmaking.
Gone with the Wind, or if you watched
Wizard of Oz,
this is another one of those films you need to watch.
Citizen Kane, King Kong, like and that's not exaggerating. This is important with a capital I. We watched it on DVD. We had a DVD.
We bought a DVD, but you can.
It's King Kong. I'm sure it's available in 1,000 different ways and shapes and forms out there that you can get a hold of. I'm sure every place streams this in one shape or another.
It'd probably be harder because we can't get a hold of Citizen Kane really well.
No, we have a copy of Citizen Kane though. But yeah, some places might not stream it.
You might have to buy it, is what.
Yeah, if you have to buy it, it's worth buying.
We bought it for $10.
Yeah, it's $10, and it's good quality.
And we bought it for $10 because Prime was rental was $4.99.
Yeah, I'm like, I might as well buy it. And here's the thing: the version that we bought has audio commentary that I actually want to sit down and watch with you. Audio commentary that has actually Ray Harryhausen on it and Fay Ray. She's like one of the people that's speaking on it. So I want to listen to that with you, to maybe get some of this behind the scenes stuff of like what Fay Ray was doing in this to portray her character. Because like, you can't take your eyes off of her when she's on screen. You can't. And it's the same with like Kong. When Kong's on screen, you can't take your eyes off of Kong because holy crap.
Well, the goofy monkey face, really.
Oh yeah, the full scale like monkey face that they put people in to like
People's
show them
teeth.
Yeah, well, to show him like gripping them with his teeth. Yeah, it's a little goofy looking, sure, but it's a full scale monkey head. Like, it's a giant monkey head. Fair enough, but I'm talking about when he's on screen as like a stop motion effect. It's amazing because you're wondering how they're going to interact with the foreground images, like that whole dead tree gets knocked down. That's pretty well done because it's
on her.
Yeah, on her. It's really well done. Or when he's fighting the villagers that are throwing spears at him.
Oh, I forgot one of the other monsters that attacked him was the bird,
Pterodon.
Pterodon.
Yeah, and there's a really good shot in that scene that actually is looking down the rest of the island, and you can see the village and the wall far in the background. So you realize
as the ship and the ship.
So it gives you a sense of scale, distance, and relative of where everybody is. It's those subtle little things that actually help build a movie and helps keep people in the movie rather than like trying to figure out where the hell everybody is. It's like all of a sudden, hey, we're in Kong's cave. Where the hell is it? Oh, it's in the top of Skull Mountain, because there I can see the wall and the village and the ship, and they're distant.
And then you can actually picture where he's standing as actually one of the eyes of the skull.
Sure. But I mean, it gives you the sense of scale and distance, and that's really well done. We're going to babble about this film for longer if we don't stop, but it is worth... It's worth not just listening to us on it. Watch the film, watch other reviews that are probably done by
more
professional cinema history people. That's fair. I'd never have pretended I'm a cinema history expert or a person that understands the art of filmmaking. What I will say I am is a person who loves good movies. I love interesting thoughts trying to be said in movies. That's why I love 50s and 60s science fiction, because a lot of times there's ideas, sometimes, and most of the time they don't pay off, but I like the ideas. I like the feelings that you get from people trying to talk about the better tomorrow, the better future that humanity can have. That's why I love Star Trek so much. But we love these films. We have a passion for these films because they bring us smiles. That's our expertise, folks. We enjoy feeling happiness from seeing these great films. So we'll leave it at that. I'm Aaron.
I'm Darlene. Good evening.
And keep watching the skies.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
Thanks for listening to this episode of This Week in Geek. Hungry for more? Check out our website at thisweekingeek.net. You can subscribe to the podcast, browse our Twitter and Instagram, and leave your thoughts on today's topics. If you'd like to give us some feedback, send us an email at feedback@thisweekingeek.net. Tune in next time, and remember,
lower your shields and surrender your listenership.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Thank you for your cooperation. Good night.